Toyota's been caught guilty once again, this time for over $1.5 billion for their own iteration of Dieselgate. Dieselgate, obviously coined from Volkswagen's emissions cheatings. Well, here's Toyota with their truck business, Hino, saying, if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. You guys caught us. Here's $1.6 billion. We're going to get into this today, guys, but we have so much other news also to pop into from Mitsubishi and Foxconn. BYD's super fast charging as fast as gas cars. The Tiguan's pricing, Nissan's new battery deal, Audi cutting employees, and also Audi going back to plug-in hybrids. Guys, if you're excited for today's news, smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed. If you like car news, I update you guys pretty much every single day on car news. I also do car reviews. I'm reviewing the LX700H this week, as well as a Trail Boss Silverado 1500. Good times, good times. All right, guys, make sure you are subscribed. I'm leaving next week to drive the new Honda Passport. It's always fun to take shots at the biggest automaker in the world, and that's what we're going to start with. Toyota, Hino, pleading guilty for U.S. emissions fraud. They're guilty over a multi-year emissions fraud scheme in the U.S. and must pay $1.6 billion in penalties. The U.S. District Court judge in Detroit accepted the Japanese truck and engine manufacturer's guilty plea and sentenced the company to pay a fine of over $500 million and serve 5 years of probation, during which it will be prohibited from importing diesel engines it manufactured into the United States. All right, Hino's done in the United States, pretty much. Maybe they come back in a few years, but remember, Hino just closed down their parts plant, Arkansas. They laid off 1,300 people. They made axles there for Sequoia, maybe some Tacoma parts at one point in time. But yes, they are closing that plant down by 2027, and it seems like they knew that the writing was on the wall, that they got caught with this emissions scandal. Of course, Toyota declined to comment, and Hino did not respond immediately to a request for comment. The judge went on to say companies who intentionally evade our nation's environmental laws, including by fabricating data to feign compliance with those laws, deserve punishment and will be held criminally accountable. They pled guilty over excess emissions and engines in more than over 105,000 trucks in the United States from 2010 to 2022. When Hino was caught for the first time for emissions scandals in 2022, they said that they saw scandal, or should I say a falsifying of engine data, emissions data, all the way back to 2003. But we're going to keep on moving. This is not the first or the last time Toyota or any major company is going to be caught cheating. We're moving on to this. All right. Mitsubishi Motors plans to outsource EV production to Taiwan's Foxconn. The last time I updated you guys on this matter, Foxconn had been quoted saying, hey, we're actually working with 2 Japanese companies to build EVs. Foxconn has also said that they want to build EVs, specifically their mid-size crossover here in the United States by the end of 2025. Well, it looks like they're going to be building it with a Mitsubishi badge, maybe a Nissan badge as well. The move is aimed to help the carmaker cut output costs and speed development of its product lineup, while Foxconn, formerly called Han High Precision, hopes to secure a foothold to collaborate on EVs with Nissan and Honda. Now, doesn't mean Honda's out of the equation. Foxconn wants as many of these Japanese companies as possible because they're behind on EVs. Now, is the EV market ready for these models here in the United States? Well, these manufacturers have to produce X amount of EVs or hybrids to avoid massive fines from California and these other West Coast and East Coast, mainly. Colorado's in there too. There are others, but the CARB states who have their own separate set of emissions regulations and EV mandates compared to the rest of the country. So these manufacturers have to produce tons of hybrids, but if you can produce more BEVs, you'll be less likely to hit with these fines. So Mitsubishi's like, yeah, Foxconn, just build us some EVs in the short term, make them decent enough so we don't have to incentivize them to the moon and back. Honda, for example, is having to incentivize their GM-built EVs right now, so it's not without I mean, it's Mitsubishi. They're the least thought about brand in America when buying a new car. This is a fact. No one thinks about Mitsubishi. They are the worst, one of the worst selling brands in America in terms of a volume perspective. And they don't have a lot of R&D to pour into building EVs. So just contract someone like Foxconn to do it. It makes a lot of sense for me. And I'm sure it makes a lot of sense for them. Now, Nissan should get on board too. Nissan, though, yes, they have the Aria and they have the new Leaf coming out this year. In my opinion, just let Foxconn make as many of these as possible for these Japanese automakers. Speaking of Nissan, Nissan just signed a battery deal with South Korea's SK Innovation, or SK On. SK Innovation's a major company, and then On is their battery subsidiary. Nissan will be getting 100 gigawatt hours over a 5-6 year period from 2028 to 2033. Now, SK On has plants in Georgia, but they also have a joint plant or two with Ford. Now, one of those joint plants with Ford doesn't look like it's going to be utilized by Ford. So Ford and SK could be providing batteries out of that unused plant for Nissan. So there's just a lot of guesswork in this article, but what is happening is Nissan is getting batteries from SK instead of that failed attempt with AESC, which actually Nissan helped found back in the day when the Leaf was taking off. But AESC is owned by Chinese Envision Group, and due to the tariffs and all the other red tape around Chinese batteries and Chinese parts, it looks like that AESC has been kicked to the curb and replaced with Korean SK. So this is a huge deal, guys. Not so much in the United States because we'll probably never see BYD, but they're pioneering the charging and the fast charging of EVs. BYD's LFP batteries traditionally have not charged as fast as NMC lithium-ion batteries, but now they've been able to create a 1,000 kilowatt charging platform with their new Han sedan. And what is their big crossover? Oh, the Tang L. And the Han L is the sedan. The Tang L is a sport utility vehicle. They're luxury vehicles. They're sport luxury, starting around the upper 30s. Both of these have like 1,000 horsepower. They can charge at 1,000 kilowatts. So you can add like 400 kilometers of range in 5 minutes, which is similar to filling up a car with gas. Also, BYD will be putting out 4,000 of these charging stations in China. And there's a maximum output on these chargers of 1,360 kilowatts. They uploaded videos on YouTube of showing these vehicles charging this fast. It is mind-blowing. Now, the only way that they're able to do this, well, they're able to achieve this fast charging by adjusting the structure of the battery mounted on the chassis while also changing the specifications of the motor and air conditioning equipment to accommodate higher voltages. Now, one of the things that they're worrying about is like, well, when you're charging this fast, it's going to put a strain on the grid. That does make sense, but what they're doing is going to be putting a battery backup system to juice up these superchargers so that it doesn't take too big of an initial hit on the grid. But that also increases the cost of these charging stations. So anytime you are pushing the envelope like this, there's going to be costs involved. 1,000-volt platforms, well, I think it's just the beginning. I think we're going to start seeing this. We already have 800-volt from the Koreans and other manufacturers that are available here in the United States, but those charge maybe around peak 350 kilowatts. Guys, this is 1,000 kilowatts higher in terms of peak charging. It's just mind-blowing. Now, sustained charging, it's around 1,000 initially, from probably about 5% to 40%, and then it starts trailing down from there on the battery, or at least the charging, right? Because if you charge at a high rate for a long period of time, consistently, it's really going to degrade the battery, and your battery lifespan is going to go down. Now, we still don't know what the battery lifespan of these new batteries are and this 1,000-volt architecture and with these fast charging. So it is definitely a breakthrough in terms of speed, but if longevity is compromised, then is it that big of a deal? Only time will tell. All right, the Tiguan starts at $30,920. Now, they killed the third row in the Tiguan. When I last reviewed the Tiguan, I quite liked it. It handles well. It's a Volkswagen. So a lot of them feel like, not the Atlas. Atlas feels like a big, heavy SUV, but the Tiguan still felt like very nimble, like a big hatchback last time I drove it. But they killed the third row. The price increase on the base grade goes up $615. What do you get for that? Well, you get an additional about 16 horsepower here. Now it provides 201 horsepower, not as much as the GLI that I drove last week, which has 228 horsepower. In my opinion, this should have more horsepower, 201. But if I look at something like a CR-V hybrid that has 201 horsepower, but better efficiency, this actually might be able to beat or come close to Honda's hybrid, for example, on the highway. And it might come close as well to the Koreans on the highway, but I don't think it's going to beat a RAV4. So the Tiguan starts front-wheel drive. If you want all-wheel drive, it's $1,500 more. When I look at this interior, well, I don't mind the orange and the black, but this big screen's fine. But where's the climate control? Oh, wait, yes, it's all baked in. It's all baked in with touch capacitive controls. It still remains one of the most frustrating climate controls in the industry and just software in general. So if you want the top line SELR line, standard all-wheel drive, costs $41K. With the new model, hopefully Volkswagen can reach 100,000 sales. The name of the game on the Tiguan might be maybe not the initial year, but it's probably going to be lease steals. So let me know what you guys think of the new Tiguan. I think it looks good. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a Porsche up front. Honestly, I think I like the looks of the previous model better. But let's keep moving. Speaking of the Germans, Volkswagen's Audi, their luxury division, is cutting 7,500 jobs in administration and development by 2029. Right? We're seeing a trimming of these companies throughout the world. In the United States, we're seeing a trimming of the government. All right, we're seeing a contraction of big business in some ways because costs are just too high. They got to find ways to be more sustainable long term, and cutting jobs is what Volkswagen's Audi is looking to do. Total layoffs, though, across Volkswagen Group, just under 48,000 people. Measures will reduce costs by 1 billion euros a year in the medium term. Not looking good if you're a worker for Volkswagen or Audi, which is the same company. But Audi is looking to come back into plug-in hybrids. I want to say that there was a plug-in hybrid Q7 not that long ago, and now we're getting a plug-in hybrid of the A5. Audi's launching 10 new PHEVs this year. I don't know if all of them will come to America. I highly doubt it. But the strategy is to keep its powertrain offerings diverse while the market for BEVs remains weak, especially their BEVs. The Audi e-tron they handle well, but they feel so heavy. Their efficiency is really, really poor. The last e-tron I drove. They look good. I'll give them that. Audi's e-trons look really nice, kind of based off the Q8 design. But man, are they heavy, man, are they inefficient, and man, do I want physical climate controls. Yes, Audi also falls victim to touch capacitive controls or touchscreen controls for climate control, obviously, because they have their own separate screen for climate control compared to the more mainstream Volkswagen, which puts it all into one screen with the infotainment. Audi's extending the sales of combustion engine cars beyond the original end of combustion cutoff date in 2032 and will place more emphasis on plug-in hybrids. PHEVs will help Audi to reduce emissions in those European countries where we're seeing that the transformation to full BEV is proceeding at different speeds. We're just a few days away of the PHEV A5. There aren't that many PHEV sedans. The S60 from Volvo just got killed off this past year. And then maybe you guys can help me fill in the gaps because they're just, the Prius is a liftback. The A5 is a liftback, right? I'm looking at the A5 right now. It still has, it's got this physical climate control. When I test drove the S5 Sportback recently, it still had physical climate control. So Yes, I've been dogging on them for having touch capacitive controls, but this is one of the few models that I've driven from Audi that has physical controls still. Hopefully that remains a thing going forward. The Q5 is also going to be getting the PHEV treatment as well as the A6 Avant station wagon. There's going to be a new Q3 this year, and it's going to be built on the MQB platform underpinning the current A3, and that will have a PHEV too. Audi was the number 4 seller PHEVs in Europe last year, selling over 71,000 units, up 2.5% from the year before. Mercedes-Benz was number 1, selling about double, 143,000 PHEVs, and BMW sold 124,000 PHEVs. Volvo, with their recharge systems, or what did they still call it, recharge? 108, the T8s, 108,000. I haven't tested any of the Mercedes-Benz PHEVs, BMW PHEVs, or Audi PHEVs. I'd like to do that this year to see what the Germans are cooking with. I've tested plenty of Volvos. Audi in Europe, remember, sold 73,000 PHEVs. Globally, they sold 88,000. Audi has increased the size of their battery in its new PHEVs to account for the utility factor, so they get more tax breaks in Europe, and to keep sizable CO2 reduction compared to models powered only by gasoline or diesel engines. Audi's number 1 selling PHEV in Europe last year was the A3, and it has almost a 20 kilowatt hour battery, up from 13 kilowatt hours in the previous model. So they're saying the electric only range in that is 88 miles. That's on the WLTP. So 88 divided by, it's probably around 77 miles. It's still a ton of range for that small little A3 PHEV. But I'm going to end it there. I probably talked about PHEVs or PHEVs more than anything else in this video. You know, really souring Toyota's image. And it's been like that for, well, at least 2022 is when the scandals started coming out from Toyota with the emission scandals, not only with Hino, but with Daihatsu. You had the crash test falsifications through Daihatsu as well. Other strange tests going on with Toyota and Lexus vehicles too. And hopefully this is the beginning of the end of this terrible news for Toyota, as well, they're not having any problems selling their models globally, as they're still, without a shadow of doubt, the world's largest automaker, and will probably continue to be for a long time until BYD passes them, probably at some point in the future. But thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves, and peace.